Hi, my name is Ben O'Connor. I'm the production lead at Rocket League Oceania. I've been working in esports for the past 6 years. We're mainly working on Rocket League, but I've worked on other titles and other shows throughout my time in esports, and I've been working in a multitude of different roles such as project management, broadcast production observing, player management, tournament administration, you name it. So today I'm going to walk you through part 2 on how to run a basic esports broadcast using OBS and Scoreboard Assistant and a few other different tools. So let's get started. Now that you have all your scenes built graphically wise anyway, you have all your graphics in there, all your assets, things are looking the way they should, it's slowly coming together. The next thing is you want to sort of import the more, essential details, right? So first of all, we want to get our game in there. So this is our game scene. It's got our game overlay, it's got our player names, that is also linked to the Scoreboard Assistant. So if I inputted player names here and here, they would show up there and there. And also like room for the score. The one thing that is missing is the game. So what we'll do is we'll go to the plus here, the plus again on the sources list, and we'll go to game capture. And we already have a game capture here, so this is going to call game capture 2. And we'll go capture a specific window. And since we're capturing Rocket League, we want to look for Rocket League, Rocket League.exe, Rocket League 64-bit DX11 cooked. And we click on that, and that is now our game running in our broadcast. And that's really cool. So, for reference, this is just a bot server with an unlimited timer, so don't freak out about the time and the score. I know it's a bit out of proportion. So the great thing about this is the sources list it works a lot like layers. So what you want to do is you want to grab your game capture and you just want to drag it under all your overlays so that your overlays appear over the top. And now this scene is also ready. It's ready to go. You've got your game capture set up. Another thing we want to go over is putting our casters or our commentators in our show as well. They don't have to be on camera if you don't want them to be, or if they don't want to be on camera, it's not usually good practice to force them into a situation that they're not comfortable with. Obviously, if you're paying them to be on camera, that works a bit different. But for more simple shows like this, a lot of the time people are working on a volunteer basis, and if they don't want to be on camera, it's usually good practice to just respect their wishes. But we'll go over how to put our casters in a show. Now, because my camera is being used to record this video, I'll just have like a little example head symbol thing from our Discord. So, what I've just done over on the side here is I've just sort of given myself a call on Discord, and Discord's a great way to do video feed from person to person. So if we want to do that, what we'll do is we'll have to we'll have to capture Discord, and so what we do that, it will go to window capture, and we'll just call this Discord. And we don't want to capture the screen. That is me. Hello. What we want to capture is we want to capture Discord. Cool. Now we've got our Discord in our show. Now one of the problems is that we can see all these ugly black boxes that we don't want. Let's just crop that out. So how to crop those out is we'll right click on our layer here, or our source, and we'll go filters, and we'll click the plus button, and we'll go to crop/pad. Here we go. Cool. So now what we want to do is we want to sort of use these values to sort of bring in or chop off this bit of fat around the side. So we'll take 200 pixels, maybe 300 pixels, 310 pixels off the left, and we'll also do the same thing on the right. We'll take 150, let's try 200, 220 from the bottom, and then from the top we'll take, let's say 180, that's a bit too much maybe. Let's try 150, cool. So now we just have our frame, which would work really well. So now that we have our frame, and we can just put it in here, and what we And then what we can do is we can just drag this under our caster overlay, and now it fits in there really nicely. And that's basically the caster scene ready to go. So we'll just, obviously like I said before, my camera is being used to record the video. You can kind of just imagine this is your caster in the screen with their camera on, and this is their head, and this is them in the frame. So cool. Now that we have our caster set up, we also have our game set up, and we have all our other scenes that we might need set up. Now the next thing you need is a way to control the show and produce the show during a broadcast. So what we usually like to do in OBS is we have this screen here that you're seeing for setting up the scenes so that we can see them in full and nice and big, and we can sort of really hone in on the details of each scene. But when it comes to broadcasting, we want to go into what is called studio mode, which you can enable by clicking this button down here in the corner. And then that's what this will look like. Now, what that does is you can preview what all the scenes look like before you send them to your broadcast. So over here is your program feed, also known as, what the broadcast is putting out at that particular time. Over here is your preview, so that you can just sort of click through and see what's going on in the other scenes, making sure that they look the way they should before you put them out to your broadcast. And then once you think that they look okay or that they're ready to go, we can click transition, and that'll transition them over to the broadcast. Now another cool way of controlling this is we can use something like a Stream Deck. So if I just open my Stream Deck software, and I've got my little Stream Deck buddy here, you can see, we can start putting in some buttons to help control the show. So we can, if we go to our, no, not the Stream Deck, we want to go to OBS Studio, we'll go add a number of scenes, so starting soon. We'll also go BRB, we'll have our casters, we'll have our game, and then we'll have the end of the show, also known as thanks for watching. Now we also need a hotkey in here to transition. The idea is that we can run the whole show using the Stream Deck. So what we'll do is we'll also have a fade button, which will act as our transition button, and we just need to assign a hotkey. So for this, I'm going to assign number 7, or numpad 7. So, and then to enable that hotkey in OBS, we'll go to settings, we'll go to our hotkeys, and then in our transition, we just want to add that as numpad 7. Cool. And now when I click the, we'll just take that off the stand. Now when I click the transition button, or the fade button, which is just there, that'll fade from scene to scene, and that's a really helpful way of controlling your show without having to use your mouse or keyboard or anything like that. The other thing that I forgot to go over when creating these buttons for Stream Deck is that you need to assign them to your scenes. So like the starting soon button is set to starting soon. We have our BRB button set, now we have to set that to be right back. Our casters button set to casters. Our game button set to game. Our end button set to thanks for watching. And that way, again, when I pull open this, when we push all the buttons, that'll flick through our scenes in the preview, and then we can push fade to transition them. Okay, so now that the show is pretty much set up, we just want to go over some last minute details in our OBS settings. So if we go to settings, and we'll go through from top to bottom in all these windows, and I can sort of walk you through what they all mean, right? So in general, this is basically your general settings. I don't usually like to change a lot in here. I don't really feel the need to. The default settings are usually pretty good. So I don't think you need to change too much. In the stream settings, this is where you set up your broadcast output. If you're broadcasting to Twitch or if you're broadcasting to YouTube, this is the area that you would input things like your stream key if you're getting a stream key from your Twitch channel, or any sort of YouTube information that YouTube might give you to help you produce a show. If you're not sure how to get that information, you go to the support pages on either Twitch or YouTube or any streaming platform of your choice, and that'll help you. You should be able to find information there on how to get that information. Now over to output. Now here, this is where you find your streaming and recording settings for OBS. Now because we're producing a live show, we just want to worry about your streaming settings. There's not too much to it, but there's a few things that you should know. So when live streaming, your computer has to compress the video feed and then output it to a platform. Usually the amount of data that is sent to the platform is known as a bit rate. So the bit rate that you want to set is sort of in accordance to what the maximum bit rate is for those platforms. We're going to be broadcasting to Twitch, so the maximum bit rate that you can broadcast to Twitch, at least as a normal channel, is 6,000 kilobits per second, or kbps. If you set this too high, your internet might be strained a little bit too much. Twitch might just flat out refuse your broadcast, or any other issues. If you set it too low, that's okay, but the show might look a little bit blurry at times, a little bit pixelated here and there. So if you want to sort of that nice balance between reliability and quality, 6,000 kilobits a second is a nice middle ground there. And it's usually the standard. You don't really want to deviate far from that anyway. The encoder is, if you have a high-powered graphics card in your computer, this is where you want to set yourself to hardware encode, and that way the computer or OBS will lean or utilize your graphics card instead of using things like your processors, which might be needed to run other things on your computer at the time. An audio bitrate, you shouldn't need to change, but if you really want your audio sounding crisp, you can set it up to 160, and that's about it really. Over to audio. Now this is what we weren't going over before when it came to audio, so we'll just quickly run through that now, right? So one of the last things you want to be adding to your show is some music. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You don't have to have a selected playlist. What you can do is you can get something as simple as a Spotify, an injection of audio from Spotify, and we can put that in our show. So how you do that is, this is what it would look like as standard. We'll go to our mic and auxiliary. What you want to do is you want to enable your stereo mix, right? Now once that is enabled, the stereo mix is something that you can direct other programs to. So we'll go and direct Spotify to that now in our Windows settings. So if we open our Windows settings, this is our sound settings in Windows. If we go down to advanced sound options, we'll go and click on this, app volume and device preferences. So if we go here and Spotify Premium, we'll just want to output that to normal speakers. And now what the speakers does is it also mirrors itself on the stereo mix. So so now that is outputting to the speakers, we can go over to Spotify, and we'll just quickly open that, and I'll start playing some music, and we can now see our music coming through our show. You might not be able to hear it, but it's there, it's levels, and showing some form of audio waves. We can pause the music, and we can boot it back up again using the controls over on Spotify. And you can also do this for other platforms such as YouTube Music or SoundCloud or Apple Music or anything else that you might want to be inputting your music from. The other thing is you might want to enable your desktop audio so that the sound from things like your game as well as Discord can come through your show. So just to set your desktop audio, it's pretty simple. Go to your desktop audio drop down and just select either default or whatever output you're sort of listening to all these things through. So for that, we'll just go default. And now we should have our 2 audio sources in our show. This is also going over to the video section. This is the resolution and frame rate in which your show will be produced at. The standard for Twitch and most other platforms is 1920 by 1080, and for most esports shows you want to be producing things at 60 frames per second. That's the standard. You don't want to deviate much further from that. And if you're doing things more advanced at say like 4K or 1440p, I don't think you want to be using OBS anyway. Hotkeys are pretty self-explanatory. If you want to set hotkeys, you can do that with all the controls in OBS here. And now the advanced stuff is, well, a bit too advanced, so I don't think there's anything that you usually need to change here. If anything, if you're having issues with OBS lagging or being a bit slow, you might want to adjust the process priority to see if you can make OBS perform a little bit better. Otherwise, unless you really know what you're doing with all these things, I don't suggest that you touch too many of these settings. So we'll go apply, and now we can see our desktop audio is in there, and our music as well. And I'll just quickly go into our game. Actually no, I shouldn't go into our game. Cool! And now that is basically your show set up. The last thing you need to do is organize your team. So you might be producing the show, but you'll probably also have a commentator along with you, as well as, like I mentioned before, you'll have a tournament admin who will be helping organizing all the players into a match server. So what you want to be doing is communicating with them to make sure that they know when they need to be in certain places. So if we go back and look at our example run sheet, our crew call is at 5 PM. That's when they need to be in Discord. You can produce like big documents such as like call sheets to give them a lot of information on the show, but theoretically for a show as simple as this, you just need to tell them, hey, 5 PM in this communication channel, whether it be Discord or whatever, be there. And then we'll go through camera and mic setup, make sure that the cameras are working, make sure that their mics are working and that they're sounding loud and clear. You can do that by listening to them through Discord, since that's where we'll be capturing a lot of our sound. And then once that's all set up and once you're happy with how everything looks, you are ready to hit start streaming. Now I'm not going to do it because I'm pretty sure that'll go to my test channel, and I don't really want to do that. But once you're ready to go, start playing your music. We'll go to our starting soon screen with our timer going 8 minutes until the casters are live, and we'll click start streaming. And that's about it. This video series was brought to you by the Australian Esports League. They're a great resource on how to improve your skills and knowledge around roles within esports, particularly broadcast production. And this video series could also not be possible without our partners over at Acer Australia. I hope you guys enjoyed the 2-part series. Happy broadcasting, guys.